Hey everybody, just getting started over here. Be starting in just a moment. Hang on. All right. Live on YouTube, live on Instagram. Just got to check Facebook and we are ready. Here we go. And one sec. I can already see the questions coming. I'll be with you shortly. All right, and then we'll just do this one over here. Mute it. And all right, here we go. And on time. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Brooke Goldner from Goodbye Lupus. It's good to see you. It's Wednesday. You're halfway through your week already. I hope that's good news. I'm here as I am almost every Wednesday to answer your questions, help you with better choices about your health, your happiness, how you live your life. And while I can't substitute for your doctor, and you should talk to your doctor before you make any big changes to your diet, I am here to help you with as much as I can. And so you can ask away. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. So from wherever you are, you can comment and I can see your comments and I will answer as many questions as I can. Before we get started, some reminders for those of you who are new or who just need a brush up. My online classes, which people can buy lifetime access to for on the cheap, $47, lifetime access, be able to watch all 5 hours of information on how to eat to reverse autoimmune disease, case studies, the whole thing. Every on a regular basis, every so often, I put them up for free for the public, just to give you an opportunity and a bit of motivation and push to make sure you go watch them. All the information's there on how to reverse autoimmune diseases and really metabolic diseases, other diseases with supermarket foods. So goodbyelupus.com. I remembered to put it in the description today. You can click it there too and share it with people. Help them learn what they can do to feel better and get healthy. So make sure if you haven't watched those classes yet that you watch them. It's got the information from Goodbye Lupus in it. And it's got a lot of case studies that are in Goodbye Autoimmune Disease, although not all of them, but a good amount of case studies in there as well. So make sure you check that out. What else? We are down to the last spots in my rapid recovery group starting August 16th. So if you're trying to get in there, this week's probably going to be the last week I mention it because usually it fills up and then we end up with a wait list. So goodbyelupus.com if you're looking for that. And again, that's the group where I work with you every day. So there's that. Okay. The daily or the weekly education. So this one really came up for me on Monday and I thought, okay, I'm going to save this one. And I've talked a little bit about this before, but I think it's a really important one for folks who are looking for better ways to be healthy, right? If you're listening to me right now, if you're taking time out of your day to be here with me, well, it's because, right, most likely you're looking for a better way to be healthy or get your health back, right? Most people who come and listen to me are either healthcare providers who are looking for new ways to talk to their patients, and I appreciate all of you who do that, or you yourself are sick, or someone you love is sick, and you're looking for something besides just Western medicine, right? And I think that is wonderful. I am so glad for that. Something I do come up against a lot, though, and I really felt emotionally at the time that, you know what, I need to bring this up. It's really important, is a lot of times when I meet with people, often, right? One of the first things people will say to me right out the gate after we say hello is, just so you know, I hate doctors. Usually that's followed by no offense, but not always. And what they're trying to say is they don't like the Western medicine approach. They don't want to take medications. They're scared of medications. Sometimes they're actually angry at doctors or angry at pharmaceutical industries, or they feel a lack of trust. But what comes out is, I hate doctors, I hate medicine, right? So while most people I see, they are more careful. They say, okay, let me use Western medicine as much as needed, but let me look for a better way, right? But then there's some folks I see on a regular basis that refuse all medical treatment. They will not even get a mammogram. They will not get a colonoscopy. They will not take a pill when it's prescribed. Even people with cancer, people with kidney failure, sometimes I will meet people who will not use any Western medicine. and have decided that all of it's evil. And what I'd like to do is maybe create a little space here, a little safe space. One, I am a doctor, right? I am a Western medical doctor, right? And what I teach on a daily basis, what I help people with, is how to actually optimize your health, right? Because a lot of what Western medicine does is it takes the pressure off, right? It helps you with symptoms. There are cases when it can cure things. Hey, you have an infection and you take an antibiotic and the infection goes away. I would say you got cured, right? But most of the time, especially with chronic diseases, it just minimizes the symptoms for a while, right? So the analogy I always like to use, or at least recently my newest one, is kind of like if you had a pot of water on the stove and the heat was turned up, right? Let's say that burner is your inflammatory immune system creating autoimmune disease, right? What Western medicine does is it's like adding cold water to the water to stop it from boiling over, right? So when it's boiling over, you feel sick, you go to the doctor, they add cold water. And if we keep adding cold water every day, twice a day, however often you take your meds, we can prevent it from boiling over sometimes. But the problem is the heat's still on the stove. We didn't shut off the stove, right? So what I want you to learn how to do, and what I learned for myself, listen, medicine's kept me alive. For the 12 years I battled lupus, medicine's kept me alive. Chemotherapy saved my life. Blood thinners saved my life. So when you need your life to be saved, Western medicine can be useful, but it doesn't heal you. It doesn't turn the stove off. And so what I have found to be the most powerful in my own journey for my own health and for helping others is teaching them how to do that, how to eat and live in a way that keeps the heat low, right? Hypernourishment, self-care, sleep, all these things that matter so much for our health. When we focus on those, and when we do that right, the heat comes down and then you don't need all that cold water. And that's what I want for all of you, right? In my case series in Reversing Lupus and Sjogren's that we published recently, and it was one of the top downloaded articles in that journal, Frontiers at the time. It was downloaded like more than 80% more than other articles. It was really cool. In that, I worked with people with lupus and Sjogren's who were highly symptomatic even with their medicines. And all of them were asymptomatic within 2 to 5 weeks, which was great, right? All of them were taken off medicine by their rheumatologist because they had sustained remission. And all of them were continuing to be symptom-free off all medicine for 4 years, 6 years, 7 years plus after working with me and changing their diet. So the goal is, where I'd like to get all of you to, is to get yourself so healthy that you don't need medicine, that you don't need doctors. But I think it's important we don't vilify people who might be able to help us. Because if you've gotten sick enough that the water has boiled over, well, at that point, you might need some doctors to save you, right? Because it's different if someone says, I hate doctors and I hate medicine, so I eat super healthy, I exercise every day, and I always get a good night's sleep. That makes sense. But the people who come to see me usually will tell me, I hate doctors, and by the way, I'm eating junk, I never get enough sleep, I'm anxious and stressed all the time. And I have to actually confront them and say, if you're not choosing medicine and you're not choosing to live healthy, you're choosing to be sick. And I don't want any of you to choose to be sick. So I want to put the devil horns in the right place, right? The person who said this to me Monday and was a wonderful person. I loved our meeting. I'm really excited to see them get better. And I use people examples all the time, and I'll get text messages after I go live. You talked about me, right? But you learned when I talked about someone else, right? So I'm not using any names or anything, but that was one of the things I had to confront, because while she hates doctors and medications, she also eats processed food every day. And I said, you have to start hating processed food. You say, I love processed food, but I hate doctors. At least doctors are trying to save your life. Processed food companies make money off of getting you addicted, right? Same with supplements. She trusts supplements, but not medications. I went, well, medications are at least FDA approved and regulated. Supplements, anybody can release a supplement, and all they have to say is not FDA approved, and they don't even have to prove it works. And so a lot of times supplement companies will see lots of people are Googling something, and they'll go, ooh, right now it's a lot of money to have a, whatever supplement, ABC supplement, everyone's Googling it. Cool, let's make that supplement. And so they are also a business trying to make money, but they don't even have the regulation. So I'm not saying take medicine, not supplements, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I think we need to stop villainizing anyone who's trying to help and try to make really practical decisions based off our health right now, right? So if you are currently sick and your blood pressure's through the roof and you're in danger of having a stroke, it makes sense to see a doctor to take medication. And it makes sense to do the nutrition I teach to bring that blood pressure down so that you no longer need medication, right? But if you have eaten so poorly that you got yourself sick, or your life has been so stressful that you've gotten yourself sick, now's the time that you're boiling over. Take the cold water if you need to, take help from wherever you can, and then work on getting yourself healthy, all right? But I worry sometimes. My husband saw some people who, the husband was in kidney failure, and he was just using chiropractic and acupuncture and stuff like that. He could have died. And we had to have an intervention and say, you need to see a doctor. You got yourself into kidney failure. Now you need medication to survive. You might even need dialysis to survive. While you're surviving, let's get you healthy as we can. Let's try to get you off those medicines. Let's try to get your kidney healed. But if you don't do something now, you will die. That's what I had to say. So I just want to make sure that people are seeing this in a way to understand and stay safe. I want all of you to live an amazing life. I want all of you to not need medicines. I want all of you to not to need to see doctors. I want that for all of you. And for some things, you can do fine without medical help, right? Okay, you're having aches and pains and you want to be natural. Awesome. Let's go all out. But let's go all out, right? But if you have organ failure, if you have issues that put your life in danger, that's usually when doctors are a good way to go. Just don't rely on them to get you healthy. Most doctors don't know how to be healthy, okay? They don't teach us that in med school. They teach us that sleep doesn't matter and eat out of the vending machine, drink lots of coffee, right? Like that was what I learned in medical school, right? So being healthy is something I've spent the last 20 years really understanding and being able to teach and achieving for myself, right? Where I'm over 47 years old, almost 48, and I have zero health problems. Where at 28, I was taking blood thinners for blood clots. I had lupus. I had protein in my urine, right? So my goal is to get you there, but just try not to villainize only medicine. If you're going to villainize something, villainize what got you sick, not what's trying to get you better. What got you sick? That means looking at what you're doing. Look at your food. Look at your lifestyle. Look at your relationships. Look at your sleep patterns. That's what got you sick, right? Except for, I know there's going to be someone who writes down, my doctor gave me a medicine and I had a bad reaction to it and that got me sick. Okay, that's different, but that's rare. Okay, that's the rare case where somebody had like an allergic reaction to a medicine that caused immune issues. I get it. And you still might need another doctor to help you get better while you recover from it. Those things happen. But for most folks I see, the trigger is their lifestyle. And even the people who had a reaction, the reason they didn't recover is because their diet was so poor, they didn't have the nutrition to be able to. So put the devil ears in the good devil ears in the right spot. Look at the things that make you sick. And then when you're deciding on what makes you better, be practical. Is this something that I can just focus on nutrition alone? Is this something where I'd be safer to get some professionals on board who might be able to sustain me, help me while I'm trying to get myself back to well again? When you're sick, take all the help you can get and then do whatever it takes to get healthy. That would be my recommendations for the approach. Because you know what? I mean, when I went to medical school, I've been a doctor for over 20 years. And when I went to medical school, it was at a time when people couldn't really have the wealth they used to. I remember doctors telling me, don't go to medical school with insurance companies and everything else. There's so much pressure, there's so little time, and it's not worth the money because you can't make the money you used to. It used to be that, insurance paid whatever and doctors could be wealthier. And I said, I don't care about that. I just want to help people. And they're like, all right, do it then. And I thought to myself at that time, I think we're getting to get a better generation of doctors now. If you can't get as wealthy as you could suing doctors, which is what one guy told me, a lawyer on the plane told me he became a lawyer because he could make more money suing doctors than being one. But if it wasn't lucrative anymore like it used to be, and it's super high stress, then maybe the people who choose it are just going to be the compassionate, empathetic ones who want to help people because it's what they love to do. And I know a lot of doctors, and that's who they are. They are compassionate, empathic people. They're burnt out, stressed, and overwhelmed that people are sicker and sicker and not getting better, and they don't know necessarily what to do to help them, but they're not trying to hurt anybody. I haven't met any evil ones yet, So we're all humans trying to do our best. And I think if you can get to the point where you can see everybody as a consultant, my doctor's a consultant, my naturopath is a consultant, my chiropractor is a consultant, and then you're the one choosing the services, that's going to empower you to do what you can do best, right? To say, okay, this makes sense for me medically, this makes sense for me naturally, this makes sense for me nutritionally, and get yourself well. But try not to just box anything out based off of just emotion. If you got yourself sick, use whatever help you need to get well. So, okay, lecture over. So going to do that. Sometimes people get surprised with that because they just figure that somehow, because I teach nutrition and self-care and other things, that somehow I hate medicine and doctors, and it's just not the case. One of my good friends I just got back in touch with from medical school, he actually stopped seeing patients, and he was awesome. I always admired him. He was brilliant. He was funny, down to earth, compassionate, but he got burnt out. And part of the reason he got burnt out was people just not trusting and blaming and it was just, he felt like people didn't trust him, believe in medicine, believe in his value. And he just got so overwhelmed, especially through the pandemic, that he backed off. And it's like the most compassionate, caring doctors are the ones that can't take anymore. And that's a shame too. So anyway, all of us are good people trying to help, is what I'm saying, and try to take each person as an individual. If you don't like a specific doctor, don't see them anymore. Find someone who suits you. But everyone's out there that's got their own specialty. All right, here I go. So what I'll do next is go into questions and help answer as many of them as I can. And I'll go back and forth between YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Smoothie Shred. I do not have any envelopes this week. Nobody wrote me a letter this week, but I hope that she got her answer for that. All right, let me see here. All right, let's go to YouTube, which always people get to load in. Let's see. All right, so let's see here. Lisa says, hi, Dr. G. Thank you for your ed. Thoughts, tweaks, if super insulin resistant, have you studied anything that needs changing with Goodbye Autoimmune Protocol? Wine vinegar, okay. Can flax oil be frozen? Okay, so insulin resistance is primarily formed by fat clogging insulin receptors, right? So the initial, and I have videos that explain this in detail, the initial theory was that it was sugar causing it, because when fat clogs the insulin receptor, insulin can't bind. And if insulin can't bind, then sugar doesn't go into the cells. And if sugar doesn't go into the cells, it stays in the blood, and therefore blood sugar goes up. So doctors, being humans too, they thought that causation and correlation were the same there. They said, oh, because blood sugar's up, it must be sugar that caused it. And that theory has been around for a long time. And there's some doctors that haven't caught up with the nutrition research that still believe that, right? So they say, oh, your sugar's high, eat less sugar. Makes sense. And if you eat less sugar, what happens? Your blood sugar goes down. But again, it's not the cause, right? So why would you suddenly be insulin resistant if you weren't before? Western diets are super full of fats, animal fats, saturated fats from animal fats. So whether it's eggs or dairy or meat, but also all the fats in the processed foods. A lot of people eat, 5 servings or more of processed items a day, which are loaded with fat. And so that fat gums up these insulin receptors, and suddenly people have insulin resistance. So that's the short version of it. So when people get rid of those animal products, processed foods, usually that makes a big difference. My hypernourishment protocol has been extremely effective. So the Goodbye Autoimmune Protocol, I'm glad you're doing that. Usually we see changes happen even in the first month with the A1C. So I'd like to see what that A1C is. If you were going to work with me, I'd be looking at your A1C. My concern is oftentimes when people have slow results, it's because they're not fully doing the program correctly because of their own fears about things or mixing other people's theories or plans or protocols with mine. So for example, plant-based programs are often, people will say no fat or low fat. And so when someone switches over to doing my protocol, which is very high in fat, but from omega-3s and avocados, for example, so flax, chia oil, and avocados, then they go, okay, well, I already learned fat's bad, so I'll do the vegetables, I'll do the water, but I'm not going to do all the omega-3s. Or if I do, I just use a little bit. I'm not going to eat avocados, stuff like that. And so they're doing their own version which then ruins the result that they could have gotten doing the full version. So one, I just want to make sure that you are doing the full version. And yes, even avocados. So I know avocados are primarily fats, but they have been studied. I've been teaching the results from that for many years, that people eat avocados in my program and their cholesterol goes down, their A1C goes down. It does not affect the insulin receptors in a bad way. So you can do all of that. So I just want to make sure that you are getting that all correct. If you are, then there should be improvement. And then adding things like exercise will help it even faster. You don't want to freeze the flax oil. You want to make sure that it's cold pressed. The other one to make sure of with flax oil, some issues I've seen lately. One is that now flax oil companies have started making heat resistant flax oil, which means it's processed. So you can find it in the section of the supermarket with other oils, cooking oils, and it says cold pressed and everything, but then it says heat resistant. Omega-3 fatty acids are not heat resistant, so it's been modified. So make sure you're not using the modified flax oil. If you do buy flax oil, make sure you're not using, the other thing that they're doing is some of these companies, it says flax oil on the front, turn the container around, and then it says flaxseed oil and then sunflower oil. Sunflower oil has some of the highest omega-6 of anything. So I accidentally bought that the other day. Well, not the other day, it was like a few months ago. I thought it was the same one I always do. And so I got cocky and I didn't turn it around to read the label. And then I got home and I had sunflower oil. I'm not going to use that. That doesn't work, right? So they will cheap out and add sunflower oil, and then it's no longer going to be anti-inflammatory. So just make sure that you're using the right items. Add exercise, and yes, white vinegar is fine. And if you're really stuck, maybe see me for an appointment to see if there's something else that you are doing that could be getting in your way. All right, let's see. We'll move down to Facebook. Oh, thank you, Nadine. I appreciate that. You're welcome, Judy. Hi, Karen. Thank you, Diana. Let's see. So Kathleen wants to know what led Thomas to use flax and chia as omega-3s for weight loss. Was it already his recommendation prior to meeting you? So no, initially back in the day, he was using, when he was still using animal products, he was actually using fish oil. And then as we started to realize the benefits of plant-based eating for health, we started looking for alternatives that would be plant-based. And so then we tested flax and chia seeds, and this is a long time ago, and found that we could get the same benefits without all of the risks. So when it comes to fish oil, there's multiple issues that can happen. I mean, fish oil is mostly omega-3, but it still has some fats, extra fats in it, saturated fats, other things, number one. Number two, it's not sustainable in terms of continuing to produce it. There's much more risk of contamination, especially mercury, other contaminants from pollution, stuff like that. We also saw more side effects. So with fish oil, it's directly going to EPA and DHA. And we started having, some people would get easy bruising. I had a patient that had like some bleeding in her eye that would happen. So they were getting very anticoagulated. And with flax and chia seeds and oil, we didn't have any of those side effects. And one of the theories we have about it, all right, I don't usually teach theories because results are what are right. But one thing that we think could be a potential mechanism of action is that when you start with the flax and chia, you have ALA, which is then converted into EPA and DHA as your body needs it. And so you can't overdose on that section. And so we find that people get all the results and they don't get all of the other issues that they had. And then it's cheaper, it's more sustainable, and most importantly, it works. So that's how it converted over in time. Okay, let me see here. Let's go over to Instagram. All right. All right, so hi, new image. I see your comments often. What are your thoughts about mastocytosis and MCAS? So mastocytosis, MCAS is basically a hyperallergic. problem, right? So that particular diagnosis is a fairly recent diagnosis. That wasn't something we'd ever heard of 10 years ago, but now it's something that they're diagnosing more frequently. And so what people have is they'll suddenly start developing massive allergies to foods, sometimes not just foods, but to things in the air, even having breakouts of rashes from things like exercise. And so it has become more and more common. I've worked with a lot of people who have these conditions who have done really well. We usually have to be very careful in the beginning to find a way to get hypernourishment done with things that don't trigger you. So we stick with all low histamine choices, which is difficult to do because even low histamine is a recent addition to the vocabulary. And there's some foods that are controversial. This is a liberator. Maybe it's not a liberator. Is this one safe? It's not safe on one list, on the other, but we try to stick to low histamine, but more importantly, foods people don't react to. And as long as we can find some foods that are hypernourishing that they don't react to, we're set to go. So, whether it's kale and chia seeds and apples. Okay, cool. Let's do that, right? So we find things, and if they work, we add them to the healthy list, the safe list. And if they get a rash or a problem, then we put it on the no-fly zone. And so we start creating that list, and I work with them on doing that. A lot of folks with these histamine issues need to take medications because we don't want them to have anaphylaxis. So we have to carefully build that list to get the nourishment to bring the inflammation down, because allergy is part of your inflammatory immune response, right? It's a part of your immune system that's basically overreacting to something it perceives as a threat, but it's not, right? When you get all this, sinusitis from pollen, it's because something's in your nose and your body goes, oh my gosh, there's an invader. It's dangerous. Let's get it out. And it's just pollen, it's not bacteria, but your immune system just has this big overreaction. And we call that allergies, right? So cat hair, not going to hurt you, but for some people, their body reactions. So we want to get that same pathway to get the immune system to calm down is the same pathway we use to trying to get the immune system to come down from autoimmune disease. So the goal is always going to be to get hypernourishment in, but it might require antihistamines or other medications. I've seen some folks that were so severely ill from mast cell issues that they would get anaphylactic from anything, environmental or food, and they had to get some experimental tested medications, injections, other things to keep their immune system quiet so they could eat and function. So, you might need to see an allergist. There are mast cell specialists out there. How much they know, I think, again, it's still an early diagnosis. So even what they know is kind of limited, but at least they know the most. That's what they do all day. So you might want to see a medical doctor who's a mast cell specialist to get their ideas on the best ways to work with keeping yourself from having anaphylaxis, which can be dangerous. While also trying to find the ways to do hypernourishment and even the full goodbye autoimmune protocol with hypernourishing foods that also don't cause reaction or allergy. But I do see a lot of improvement with people. All right, let me see here. I actually just saw a medical student who has that diagnosis, and even when he goes running, he gets this big rash, and because it can affect mast cells when you run, but he wouldn't stop running. Good for him. He wanted to stay fit. But after we met together, he actually texted me a picture of no rash after a run. So it showed his immune system had calmed down and he wasn't having the same reactions. All right, let me see. I love when people post their results. So we got to put that one on there. Let's say, all right, let's see. So Jill wanted to post here. Healed almost 2 years now. Thank you, Dr. Goldner. 24 years of chronic pain from rheumatoid arthritis, documented to include surgery. Over. Every day someone hears my testimony. Big thank you. So for all of you who needed a little boost today, check that out. Like that is right there. This right here. That's what I want you to see, right? Someone with 24 years of pain has been pain-free, feeling great for years now, because just listening to what I'm saying, right? I want all of you to have those results. Thank you, Jill. Congratulations. I'm so happy to see you're still doing well. So cool. All right, let's see over here. Let's see here. Good morning, Vajnam. Let's see. Thank you for enjoying my analogies. Good morning, David. I'm looking over in Smoothie Shred now. Okay. Julie wants to know, how does this reverse EBV? Would it be helpful for EBV? So yes. So with Epstein-Barr, I have a lot to say about this, but I don't want to take all of your time. I think it's over-tested, first of all. Epstein-Barr virus is something that basically all of us get exposed to. All of us get exposed to it. So when I was in my first remission, meaning I got off chemotherapy, I was still taking prednisone, I still had lupus symptoms, but I was stable enough with my kidney function that I didn't need prednisone anymore, which to me felt like freedom, right? That was very exciting. So I'm in college, I'm only taking pills now instead of chemo. And, I took Celebrex for my joint pain, and I took, medicines for migraines and all the stuff, right? I still had illness, but happy, right? So I'm in college and I see an article that says they may have found the cause of autoimmune disease, and it's Epstein-Barr virus. And they had done a study where people with autoimmune disease tested positive for Epstein-Barr virus. Now, before you go and ask for a test, listen to the rest of the story. So I get so excited. Finally figured out the reason, right? So I call my nephrologist, said, hey, I want a blood test for Epstein-Barr virus. He goes, all right, sure. So get a test done, positive. I was exposed to Epstein-Barr virus. Oh my gosh, right? Then they do the next study and they find almost everyone you tests positive for Epstein-Barr virus, because most of us get exposed to it like in high school, early college. So basically it was misleading that just because people with autoimmune disease had been exposed to Epstein-Barr doesn't mean it caused it, because everybody basically gets exposed to Epstein-Barr. So it was just kind of it was just one of those things. So I have not seen any correlation with that. And I don't even recommend people usually test it. Now, some people are all into it. I have seen some people who've built their entire platform on that Epstein-Barr, everybody pay for an Epstein-Barr test. And then what? I don't know. Supplements, I'm not sure. But I have not personally, in all the years I've done this, seen a correlation where I now have to treat Epstein-Barr virus. What I found, though, is even with people with positive titers, even people who might have a super infection, meaning they have a new infection of Epstein-Barr, it's not just exposure, but they have an infection. What do? We need to get you healthy, right? Because your immune system should be able to overcome an infection. Is that infection causing your autoimmune symptoms, or is it just something that they happen to find and they would have found it either way? I'm kind of leaning that way, but hey, even if it is one of the triggers, we do know that autoimmune can be triggered by any stressor, right? If the environment is primed for it, right? So if you have someone who's got a malnourished diet, they're dehydrated, they have a lot of stress, and then you add a virus, yeah, that could be the final thing that puts you over the edge. But even if you didn't get that virus, it could have been a bad night of sleep. It could have been a bacteria. It could have been anything, a medicine interaction. There could have been anything that was your final straw if you were already heading that way, is what I'm saying. But there's no evidence that virus then causes the genetics of autoimmune to be expressed. So just so that's clear. So even if that is the trigger, I don't change what I'm doing. What I found is even with folks who come to me saying I have EBV, which a lot do, because a lot of people test that for the same reason I tested it. Oh, I heard that it could be this. Oh, let's test it, right? So a lot of people test it. I haven't seen there be any difference in their recovery than anybody else who didn't get it tested or who, might not have had it. The same exact program works for reversing their symptoms and getting them healthy. Now, one of the reasons it also helps with viral infections is because we get the anti-inflammatory immune system working so well. And there's many components to hypernourishment that optimizes your immune function and even its ability to kill viruses, right? John Hopkins research showed that cruciferous vegetables have a component called sulforaphane, which prevents viruses from replicating themselves. They tested the flu virus and they tested COVID and found both of them were blocked from replicating significantly just by exposing them to cruciferous vegetables. Hallelujah, right? You got a sniffle, eat cruciferous vegetables. They also found that cruciferous vegetables directly decreased inflammation in the lining of the lungs, which is why it's so beneficial to things like COVID or any kind of respiratory disease. So, and I see people all the time with respiratory disease, either caused by infections or by autoimmune disease, and suddenly they can breathe again. They can talk without having to stop and get some air. They don't need to use oxygen except at exercise, or sometimes can come off of it. We're bringing inflammation down right there in the lung surface, right? So even if it's Epstein-V, and even if somehow it turns out Epstein-V is the trigger, which again, it's not proven, but hey, we don't know until we know. Even if that's the case, I haven't seen anybody have to do anything differently. You do the same protocol that everyone else would do, and your body gets healthy. It can fight the virus. It can get back to baseline and get the inflammation down. So, all right, let's go back up to YouTube here. Let's see. All right. IL wants to know, is zinc supplementation necessary on Goodbye Lupus protocol? Do you find it essential for hair growth? No, most people do not need to supplement zinc. I mean, if you're using things like chia seeds, lots of zinc. So no, I haven't seen that be necessary. There are some people who have abnormalities in things like zinc and copper, and it can be helpful to test that and to look at that. But you got to be careful because, for example, since I just brought up copper, whenever you add a certain vitamin, it's going to compete for absorption with something else. And zinc and copper actually compete for absorption. So if you start taking a zinc supplement, you might actually suppress copper absorption. Now you're going to be copper deficient. That has its own problems. So you want to make sure you only supplement what you need. And if you think you might need zinc, then I would get a test done, look at your zinc, look at your copper, make sure that you're safe. Because if you just start supplementing one or the other, you're going to disrupt the other one. There's balance. Nature, when you're eating, your body will naturally absorb what it needs. When you force a vitamin into your system, you're changing that dynamic and you're making your body absorb something that maybe it wouldn't have. It might have not taken so much in because of the copper, right? Just as an example. So if you think you need it, take it. But personally, I don't supplement with that. And I don't see a need for it when you're following the protocol correctly. If you do think you need it, like I said, I would test before just adding supplements. The only supplements I recommend to every person is B12, D, and iodine. Those are things we absolutely need to supplement. But everything else, I base that off of data and not like a sweeping thing. We base it off data, and the data is usually a lab test. Okay, let's see here. Instagram. All right. Lou Too Cute said, good day, Dr. Lupus. I don't identify as lupus, but I get it. It's cute. Thank you. All right, let me see. Hello, Loving Life. Hi, 444. Let me see. Hi, Carrie from Iowa. Let me get to a question. All right, and Farmwise School is asking, do you think your protocol could help with lung diseases associated with common variable immunodeficiency disease like bronchiectasis and interstitial lung disease? So I just kind of mentioned some of the benefits you can get. So it'll bring down inflammation, it'll optimize your immune function and immunity in every way it can. Whether it can, sometimes people have a genetic immunodeficiency. I don't know that it would change that, but at least you give your body the nutrients that it needs to optimize everything it can. Okay, I'll go to another one since that was already all right. All right. So the chronotype wants to know, hey, Dr. G, if you have to do the Goodbye Lupus protocol and warfarin, I think you mean self-titrating, maybe? How long does it usually take to adjust one's dose of the smoothie vitamin K content event? Okay, so for people who are wondering about that, when you are on warfarin, otherwise known as Coumadin, that medication specifically interacts with healthy food. So the healthier your diet, the faster you break it down, right? So in order for that medicine to work correctly when you eat healthy, you have to continuously test a test called your INR. And if you're self-testing, maybe that's what you meant. If you're self-testing, then what you want to do is you keep testing it to make sure that you finally get to the right dose of medicine that goes with your dose of food. If you're doing it on your own and you're doing it frequently, you can probably get it down within the first couple of weeks. Most people go and get it tested at a lab. And so it might take the first 3 weeks or so for us to, I get their nutrition where it needs to be, and then I leave it to their prescriber to then help them find the dosage of medicine that gets their INR where it needs to be to support their diet. Unfortunately, in Western medicine now, typically when you're given that medicine, they'll say just avoid eating leafy greens. And that way they don't have to mess with your medicine dose. But if you are trying to actually get well, you need to talk to your consultant, your doctor, right? Talk to your consultant and let them know, hey, I'm going to be on a diet that's very high in leafy greens because I'm trying to get myself healthy. So can I get a script to come in to get my INR tested so you can help me come up with the right dose of medicine to go with my diet? And they can help you with that. There are home INR machines that you can ask your doctor about, and they can teach you how to use it where you can do that on your own. The other options, by the way, is you can take blood thinners that don't get affected by diet. So there's injectable, and there's also some new pills, newer pills that don't have dietary restriction. It's just most doctors will recommend Coumadin/warfarin because it's what they know. They've used it for decades and they trust it. Like, we know this works. Let's not mess with it. Some doctors are more open to trying different things. So that's the other option. But I'm glad that you're at least monitoring that for safety. The goal is to not need the blood thinner anymore. And for some folks, especially who have a anti-cardiolipin or antiphospholipid antibodies like I did, once my antibodies were gone and they stayed gone for a year, that's how long it took my doctor to not be afraid of taking me off of blood thinners. But back then we didn't know lupus could be reversed. And so we didn't understand what was going on. It's been it'll be 19 years in October that I've never had a relapse, right? So I'm glad that I did stop it. But, the first goal is to get you healthy. And then if whatever the cause is goes away, then that's always great news too. Some people where they've had other issues where you can't follow the antibodies, they had a stroke or something where they can't figure out the cause, they often will want you to stay on some level of blood thinner no matter what. But good problems is to be super healthy and then be managing the meds with your doctor. Okay. All right, let's look over here. Let me go back to my Smoothie Shred group here. All right. All right. Les and Smoothie Shred wants to know, hey, Dr. G, if on long-term proton pump inhibitors, they block B12, cause gut damage, absorption problems, have you come across this? I've definitely come across people with gut issues from being on proton pump inhibitors for a long time. And it's a difficult thing. Again, Western medicine, what do? We pour cold water to stop the boiling, but we don't turn off the heat, right? You're going to remember that, right? So proton pump inhibitors are like that. When people have very high acid and it's making their throat burn, doctors will want to do something about it, right? Because prolonged reflux over time can change the cells in your esophagus and create precancer, even cancer, right? So doctors are trying to save you from that. So they give you medicines to try to stop the acid, right? Now, if you can figure out the nutritional cause of it, that would be good, right? Then we can turn the heat down on the stove. But what happened is a long time ago, they found proton pump inhibitors actually reduce stomach acid. And so they would put people on it and then leave them on it. And I've met people who've been on them for decades. But now, of course, they've come across, actually, it's starting to cause issues. Why? Because your stomach's supposed to have acid, right? There's supposed to be acid. So when we turn down the acid, now we cause other issues. So I've had to help some of my own patients. Not everyone I can see as a patient. A lot of people have to see for wellness, and then you have to talk to your doctor about your medications. But both scenarios, I've helped people with that. And, it can be difficult. It can be difficult at first to come off of it because of the symptoms. So sometimes people will need other medicines to kind of help them transition over, like Carafate to kind of block the acid from burning, or maybe more a different kind of acid blocker where it's, working a different way, or like one that you take just as needed versus every day. Sometimes there's a transition period that they have to use to get to a place where they can do well without it. You also have to look at your diet. So things like high caffeine intake. Caffeine is well known for causing things like reflux. So looking at all the different ways you can adjust your diet. High oils and fats in your diet can also cause it. I often recommend people space their meals out where you have a tiny meal every 2 hours. So there's not that much in your stomach, less acid, less fullness, putting pressure on the esophagus. So there's a lot of different techniques I'll help people with to try to help them bridge that time as they're coming down off of their proton pump inhibitors. But very good question, and not one I usually see. So I was like, when I get to see something new. All right, let's see. All right, regular Facebook. Let's see here. See if I can find some good news stuff. All right. So Brittany wants to know, she calls me Smoothie Queen. Dr. Lupus and Smoothie Queen today. I'm getting some new nicknames today. How to hypernurse to heal Crohn's? And 2, does the Dr. G method have success in treating heterogeneous of the endometrium? Thank you. With the green heart. I like the green heart too. It's a smoothie heart. Okay. So Crohn's disease, I have awesome success in Crohn's disease across the board. When people get to the full protocol, usually they do not have symptoms, and they will have dramatic improvements, if not full reversal, of the calprotectin marker that you test, and the ESR markers usually within 4 weeks, definitely within 6. So it has been really, really good. Now, when I say full protocol, it's because not everyone with Crohn's can start at the full protocol. So I have to start where the person is. So, if someone's got bloody, painful stool, then eating cruciferous vegetables sometimes is a bit of a reach, right? We have to get them stabilized first. But once I can get people's guts to calm down, often then I will use things like supplements. I will recommend they use medications to get their gut to calm down. Then once I can get them into that calm space, which usually takes about 2 weeks, then we start introducing the protocol and getting them up to the full amounts for the Goodbye Autoimmune protocol. And it's definitely the Goodbye Autoimmune protocol, because I have yet to meet a person with Crohn's that didn't have also high stress or anxiety as well at the onset of their illness, whether it's getting waitlisted for Yale or whether it was some other emotional issue that has happened in their life. There was usually something going on right at the time of the outbreak. So one of the biggest things I do is teach them how to manage their stress, use self-care to keep the gut calm. And that's true, by the way, for gut issues in general. Chronic constipation issues, IBS, inflammatory bowel disease. Usually folks with chronic gut issues also have chronic anxiety or depression or stress. It directly affects our gut function. Okay. So I work on all that, and then I put them on full Goodbye Autoimmune protocol, and they do really well. A lot of times people have sensitive guts, especially like with Crohn's. They stick with the smoothies because broccoli, cauliflower is really good at sweeping that gut clean, but sometimes you don't want a wire brush sweeping your gut if it's already kind of sensitive and been bleeding recently. And so the smoothies are often a very easy way to get the nutrition in without making the gut do too much. So, all right, let's see here. All right, Instagram. Hi, Deborah in Long Island. That's where I grew up much of my life, in Long Island. Long Island. Yes, I learned how to pronounce it correctly when I left. All right. Farm Life School. Thank you so much. Okay. Tina Thanos. Oh, I haven't seen this one in a while. Any advice for frozen shoulder? I just started my green smoothie journey a week ago, and I feel the inflammation has been reduced quite a bit. I've had really good results for frozen shoulder. So I actually had a client with frozen shoulder. The first time I treated it was one of my co-residents from back when I did my residency program at UCLA Harbor, California. One of my residents contacted me. She was actually a year ahead of me. And she said, my mom has frozen shoulder. I follow what you do. Would you be willing to be with my mom? I was like, yeah, and I'm honored. Thank you. Right. So I always love it when, to get a referral is always good. And especially for someone who knew me back in the day. Right. And her mom had frozen shoulder for years. And it only took a couple weeks on my protocol, and it loosened up and went away. That was very exciting. Generally speaking, Goodbye Lupus protocol and physical therapy. You need physical therapy as well. So yeah, full protocol, physical therapy, a TENS unit can help during the healing process as well. But as you can see, or as you can feel, as you mentioned, the inflammation tends to come down pretty quickly when there's an inflammatory component. And if it's not healing, there's usually an inflammatory component as well. All right, let's see here, Facebook. Oh, hey, here's a reminder for you to watch the videos. Leslie's saying, I watched the videos here last week. I'm happy I did. Thank you for making them available. There you go. It's really, really important to get the information out there. And it's one of the reasons that I teach it, okay? It's one of the reasons I release it. When I first wanted to release all this information to the public, and even when I was going to write the book, I was like, the whole goal was, let me put it out there. Everybody needs to know this. And that was my goal. Just make this common sense. Just make this the law of the land. Like everybody knows it. And I knew when I released it, then other people were going to adopt it. And, and I have copycats all over the place. And I know. And they're like, it's my protocol. I figured out how to reverse autoimmune disease. And it's like exactly the same. Some of them even say they had the same story as me, which is much more shady. But anyway, but I didn't care about that. Why? Because I just want people to get the information. And so you can read it for free in Goodbye Lupus if you go to a library, right? Or you can spend, show us a tiny amount of money and get it on Amazon, right? Or you can watch these classes. You can own them and watch them as much as you need to. You can watch them for free when they come on, but make sure that you do it. Get the information. There's no reason not to have the information. So, all right, let me keep looking for that. Some Facebook here. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. All right, let's see. So Mariana says, I worry a lot, which causes me anxiety, causes me stress. It raises my cortisol. How do I stop this cycle? So, and Marian, you know, she's doing hypernourishment and plant-based, but she's trying to figure out how to stop that cycle. So, the most important thing, all right, number one is if you are constantly in a cycle of anxiety, then I want you to see a therapist, all right? And just like with any medical doctor, even with therapists, find one you like. There's a very high dramatic variability in skill level in therapy, and there's also a dramatic variety of personality, right? If you love my personality, we're gonna have a great time in therapy, right? I have high skill level and this personality. So if you like that, it's gonna work out great. If you're somewhere where I can do psychotherapy, right? But you know, whoever you go to, make sure you find someone with those characteristics. You like their personality and they're showing you high skill level. How do you know they have high skill level? You're getting results. All right. You're getting results. I want to know that you are learning things to help you feel better. Okay. So if you are stuck in a cycle, you need someone to help you figure out how to get out of that cycle. What am I doing, right? So you go to a therapist. Cognitive behavioral, or CBT, is a great place to start because it's very focused on, here's my thought, here's how I feel. If I work on this thought, here's how I'll feel if I'm already having this, right? So some of the things I teach, like in rapid recovery, right? Thought log, right? Here's the thought, here's how I feel. What's the evidence for the thought? Evidence against it, right? So you want to, you know, those come from CBT kind of techniques, right? To kind of look at how are my thoughts affecting my moods, right? But if you're not able to do it on your own, if you're not catching yourself and talking yourself back down, a therapist is a really good start. You know, it's the goal is to get to a point where you can observe your thoughts, but not just react to them. Your thoughts and your feelings, right? Something that, you know, I teach my kids, like, I think it's something that's really important. Is like, have an awareness of how you feel. Don't just react to the feelings. Have an awareness, like, oh, I'm in a good mood. Cool. Or, I'm feeling kind of stressed today. Okay, let me deal with that stress so I don't take it out on someone. Feeling annoyed today. All right, let me do some self-care to deal with that annoyance so I don't take it out on someone. I'm feeling scared today. Let me figure out what's triggering my fear so I can find a way to comfort it, right? A lot of people, they just let the anxiety rule them, and it's like a hamster on a wheel, exhausting themselves but going nowhere. So once you're willing to get off the wheel and say, you know what, anxiety doesn't work for me, it's not helping me, right? Because for you, you're saying that you worry a lot and that causes you anxiety. But the only reason people worry a lot, keep worrying, is because there's a part of their brain that thinks they're doing something important, that it's effective. So I know when I work with my therapy patients, one of the first things that I will get them to agree to, I say, if you want to release anxiety, you have to first agree to this one thing. And they might not agree with it the first day. You might have to keep working on it. But the first step to releasing anxiety, ready guys, is you have to believe and accept that it doesn't work. You have to. As long as you think you're doing something important by worrying, you will always do it, right? So it's like, if I'm afraid a meteor will hit my house. If I think every day about how scared I am about a meteor, does that prevent a meteor from hitting my house? No, not at all. In fact, there's nothing I could do to prevent that. I don't work for NASA. I don't have like the ability to check on any of that. If it happens, it's going to happen, right? I have no ability, right? So accepting the things we cannot change, very important. But, you know, there are some things that people worry about that may never happen, right? And that's what worry is about, the imaginary future. What if this happens? What if that happens, right? So you want to get out of that imaginary future by reminding yourself and accepting it doesn't work. Worrying, if it worked, I would prescribe it. I would come on Wellness Wednesday and say, hey guys, if you don't want to get sick, just make sure you worry every day, and that will keep you healthy, right? I teach what works. Anxiety doesn't work. All anxiety does is make you sick because of the cortisol, because of the stress on the body. It affects your sleep. It affects your gut. It makes you sick. But the first step to releasing it is fully accepting that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. What works? Game plans. Mary and I know you, so I know you know this, right? Game plans are the cure for anxiety once you're willing to accept that anxiety doesn't work. So once you accept that, you go, oh, so now I need a game plan. Is there a game plan for a meteor? I don't have one. For that, I just have to make peace with it. It's a very low possibility. And if it happens, I guess that's how I go. Very dramatic. It'll make the news, right? But I can't do anything about it, right? So the game plans will be for things you can control, right? I'm afraid that I'm always worried that I left the stove on. Okay, cool. I want you to make a checklist on your phone where every night you go around and check your stove and whatever you're worried about, and you check it off. You examine it and you check it off every day. And you can do that on paper. And that way you don't have to worry anymore, because you will know and have evidence that you actually checked it. Done checking, I have a game plan, right? I'm worried that something can happen. Cool, let's make a game plan. I'm worried that the rain might flood and I won't be able to get to the supermarket. Cool, go to Costco, go to the supermarket, fill up on food and water, right? Game plan. Game plans are the cure for anxiety, but that first step is important. And I've never heard anybody else address that. I'm trained in so many different psychotherapies, in addition to being a psychiatrist. Like, I've never heard that before. So that I think that can be a Dr. G-ism. But I have found in helping people release anxiety, that step is important. As long as someone thinks they're doing something important that's going to prevent a bad thing from happening, they will do it like a ritual, like a good luck charm, right? Because they're afraid if they stop worrying, the bad thing will happen. But once you're willing to accept that first piece, and you have to remind yourself every day, whenever you're back on the wheel, you go, it doesn't work. It's just making me sick. Let me get off the wheel. Let me see if there's a game plan to fix this. Is there no game plan? I'm just going to accept I don't have control over this and go do something that comforts me. And that is the pattern that I'd want to move you into to finally get past that anxiety so that you can have a better life, right? Remember, anxiety manifests bad things. It doesn't prevent them, right? Anxiety is like carrying an open umbrella over your head all the time just in case it rains. And all it does is block out the sun on a sunny day. And you go, why is it always so dark and gloomy? Because of the umbrella. Close the umbrella. There's the sunshine. That's what anxiety is. It's an umbrella over your head on a beautiful day. Take an umbrella with you or keep it in the car just in case. That's a game plan. But don't have it open over your head all the time, or you'll miss all the beautiful days while you're worrying about bad days that may or may never happen. So, all right, that's the encapsulated form of that. All right, let's see here. In my rapid recovery group, we spend a lot of time on this. There's daily work for emotional health, and we want to make sure that that people work on the things they need to. For a lot of people who are sick, this is one of the biggest things, is that they are constantly in fear and worrying all the time. And so we want to teach them that, the game plans and releasing. So make sure that you remember that. It's a really important thing. Okay. Let's see if I have any more over here in Smoothie Shred. No. Okay. All right. Let me see here. All right. Marlene wants to know how to get in touch with me regarding my lupus. So goodbyelupus.com. You can send me an email to drg@goodbyelupus.com. You can make an appointment or join a program at goodbyelupus.com. All of those different areas, Marlene. Okay. Thank you, Mary Jane. That's so sweet. Getting compliments today. Let me see. All right. Oh, now I'm getting to your reactions to my intro there. All right. Shiva wants to know, would a parasite cleanse help with curing severe eczema? I don't know. I guess if you have parasites causing your eczema, then that would be the answer. I have not yet seen that that's an issue. I have seen people who respond well to antifungals. I have seen people respond to some of the newer medications that can help. One of the things that I've found naturally that has helped, I mean, like I said, if you have a parasite, maybe that's the case. But I think most of the time, I mean, it depends where you live. Where are you picking up parasites from, right? Most people in the Western type of lifestyles aren't being exposed to it, unless you're swimming in the Seine River at the Olympics. There definitely been some people getting sick there. But generally, it's either, so some people, they show their inflammation in their skin, and some people it's topical. One of the things that I found to be really effective is switching the moisturizer over to shea butter. Shea butter has natural anti-inflammatory properties topically. It doesn't usually trigger reactions. I have seen reactions to even the vitamin E and other stuff that I used to use. Whereas this, because people with eczema get really itchy and dry, and I have seen it work really, really well. Some people do need to use some antifungals either orally or topically, but I haven't seen a direct correlation with parasites specifically. All right. Okay. All right, Instagram. Let me see where we're at. Oh, we're almost out. Let's see. Okay. So this one is in Spanish, but thankfully I took Spanish in college too. So what she's saying is Paula is saying that she always has low white blood cells, and she wants to know if I can help fix that, right? Can you help make it better? So Paula, it depends on the reason for the low white blood count. I've gone into this in detail other times before, but low white count can be a sign of disease, but it also can be a sign of superior wellness. And it really just depends on the person, right? So when white blood count is it's a part of your inflammatory immune system, right? So when people have an infection, white count is high. When they have autoimmune disease, their white count is high, right? So white count can be high when you're sick. They can also be high from different kinds of cancers and things. Lots of reasons it can be high. Now, it can be low also from diseases. It can be low from certain types of cancer. It can be low because you're on medication. A lot of people on autoimmune medications have low white counts because it's suppressing their immune system, right? And so they'll have a low white count. But you can also have a low white blood count because you eat a super anti-inflammatory diet. A lot of the people that I see, they reverse their disease, all their markers go away, and their white count's around 3. And their doctor goes, oh my God, the lupus is gone, but now you have a low white count, so maybe you have cancer now. And then they are panicked. I don't know how many times I've gotten a panic text message. I feel great and all my markers are gone, but now they think I have cancer. And I go, let me guess, low white count. And they're like, yes, how'd you know? And then the hematologist tells them they're fine. But in the meantime, they go through panic and terror. But if your immune system, if your white count was low because you were sick, then you would get sick all the time, right? So when people have a low white count because of lupus or being on autoimmune medication, usually they get way more colds and flus. I was like that when I had lupus and when I was on those medications, I was always sick. In medical school, I had walking pneumonia. I had a sinus infection that was 6 months. I mean, it was constant illness. Why my immune system was suppressed, both by lupus, picking on the wrong stuff, like going after my kidney instead of going after infections, and then being on immunosuppression medications, right? The combination of those things made me always sick. But with my clients, and even with myself now, when we find that after doing the Good Bioimmune protocol, their white count is often low, sometimes low normal, sometimes a little bit out of range, but they don't get sick at all. They don't get flus, they don't get colds, they don't get COVID symptoms, they feel amazing. And that's because the immune system has a low baseline. But if they get sick, it activates, it gets rid of the cold, and it comes back down again versus staying high all the time like most people. So I'd be able to get you to be able to optimize your immune health. And then wherever the white count ends up, it ends up. But just the white count on its own, as I just explained, it doesn't tell me enough about all the other things going on. So if you're healthy otherwise and feel great and you never get sick, it's probably fine. If you're sick all the time, now we need to look at why. Is it immunosuppression medications? Is it disease? Is it something else? And then we would work on that illness together. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Katie, while I'm on Instagram, since I see it, well, there's a couple here at rapid fire. So Nisa, yes, we have great experience with discoid lupus, responding to the same protocol. And Katie has 4.5-year-old twins with allergies, asthma, and enlarged tonsils. They're scheduled for surgery soon. We're hoping we can reduce them naturally. Yeah, some kids just naturally have larger tonsils, and it's better as their bodies grow. It gets better. And then other times it's related to inflammation and illness. So what I would be looking at is how do we make sure they stay healthy? Asthma, they hopefully aren't on any dairy, and you have them on a nourishing plant-based diet with raw foods, cooked foods, and no outside inflammatory stuff, nothing processed, no dairy, no animal products. See how healthy you can get them. Just enlarged tonsils on their own aren't necessarily a problem. Some kids just have bigger tonsils. But if they're sick a lot, then we need to deal with that. All right. All right. Natalie says to look out for her. She's going to be, she's in London, but she wants to join the rapid recovery group. Yes. So we have folks from all over the world in that group. It's the coolest thing. I mean, it's just, I think we've had all the continents at this point. Yeah, for sure. And it's really awesome to be able to help people at the same time from all over the place. It's great. Remember, the group that's starting August 16th, we're down to the final spots. So if you want the spot, goodbyelupus.com, go there and grab it. If you're just looking for free information, Wednesdays I do my coaching. The classes are free until August 10th. Goodbyelupus.com. Make sure you get all the free information you can. If you can get better for free, I'm happy. That's like the best thing ever, is that I can donate my time this way and then heal people all over the globe at once for free. Awesome. And if you know that you've got way more questions and you need me to look over you every single day, then Rapid Recovery is a really good choice for that versus like an appointment or something where I can meet with you. So goodbyelupus.com has all of that. All right. So let me see here. Okay. That's all I can do for today. I do have other people who invested in some appointments with me that I have to go talk to. But I hope that this really helped you today. We hit a lot of different topics. And again, make sure that you get the information, watch the classes, and I will see you next week. Same time, same bat time, same bat channel. That ages me because that's such an old Batman reference. But I will see you YouTube, Facebook, Instagram next week, same time on Wednesday. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.